Good afternoon. You're watching breaking news here on TVR World. We're coming to you live from the capital, Jakarta, Indonesia. Today we're bringing you the latest updates and developments in regards to the helicopter crash tragedy that killed Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi and its latest developments on the ground. And we'll also later on be speaking with CSIS researcher Peter Pandey on its geopolitical impacts both domestically and internationally. I'm Rahmat Idris. This is breaking news, Martyrdom in the line of duty. The late Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi, who died in a helicopter crash, will be buried this coming Thursday in the city of Mashhad in the northeastern part of the country. Iran's Vice President for Executive Affairs, Mohsen Mansouri, stated on Monday local time that the funeral ceremony for Ibrahim Raisi will be held on Thursday night at the Imam Reza Mausoleum. Mansouri has been appointed as the head of the funeral organizing committee for the victims of the Iranian presidential helicopter crash. Mansouri added that the funerals for the other Iranian officials who died with Raisi will be held separately in the city of Qom near Tehran, then in Tabriz and in the city of South Khorasan province. Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi was confirmed to have been killed in helicopter crash on Sunday. He was 63 years old. The helicopter that President Raisi boarded had crashed and lost contact since Sunday, May the 19th, after the president and his entourage inaugurated a new dam at the Iran-Azerbaijan borders. Here is the chronology of the incident. A meeting with President Ilham Aliyev of Azerbaijan turned out to be the last official meeting of Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi, whose helicopter with several other officials on board crashed on its way back to Iran due to bad weather conditions.
The helicopter crashed on its way from Hudafarin to Tabriz. Following the accident, the helicopter crew had reportedly been contacted twice, but the connection was then lost. Eventually, the rescue teams managed to find the crashed helicopter. The chairman of the Iran Red Crescent Society, Pir Hussein Kulivand, made a statement that all of the persons on board of the helicopter have died. Aside from Raisi, the helicopter carried Foreign Minister Hussein Amir Abdullahian, representative of Iran's Supreme Leader in Tabriz, Muhammad Ali Hashemi, and East Azerbaijan Province Governor Malik Rehmati. Raisi was visiting the neighboring Azerbaijan to jointly with President Aliyev commission the Kudafarin hydroelectric complex and inaugurate the Giz Galaxy hydroelectric complex on the Aras River. With Raisi killed in the crash, Iran's first vice president, Muhammad Mohber, will serve as Iran's president.
The Iranian government on Monday announced the investigation into the cause of the helicopter crash that killed Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi. As reported by the Iranian government news agency Tuesday, the Chief of Staff of the Iranian Armed Forces, Major General Mohammad Bagheri, has assigned a high-level team to investigate the helicopter crash that killed Raisi and his accompanying team. The investigation team was led by Brigadier Ali Abdullahi. They have gone to the scene and started an investigation. The result of the investigation will be announced once the investigation is complete. Meanwhile, the president's body would be transferred to his birthplace, Mashhad, where his funeral will be held on Thursday. In the meantime, President of Indonesia Joko Widodo on Monday expressed deep condolences over the demise of Iranian President Sayyid Ibrahim Raisi, who was killed in a helicopter crash in northwest Iran on Sunday.
President Joko Widodo wrote on his official X account that he was deeply saddened by the news of Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi and several delegates who were killed in an accident in Iran. Jokowi wrote that he prayed for all families of the president and the delegates, as well as to all Iranian people. On Sunday, a Bell 212 helicopter carrying Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi, Iranian Foreign Affairs Minister Hossein Amir Abdullahian, and several other officials crashed in Varkazan, East Azerbaijan province. The accident occurred when Raisi and his entourage were on board the helicopter to the city of Tabriz in East Azerbaijan province. Prior to the flight, Raisi inaugurated Qiz Qalasi Dam at the Khuda Afarin region in East Azerbaijan province, which shares a border with Azerbaijan.
A number of state leaders expressed their condolences towards the people of Iran following the death of Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi in a helicopter crash in Iran on Sunday. Chinese President Xi Jinping on Monday sent a message of condolences to Iran's first Vice President, Mohammad Mokhber, following the unfortunate death of Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi in a helicopter accident. A foreign ministry spokesman said on Monday.
Wang Wenbin, the spokesman, made the remarks at the press conference held in Beijing. Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi and Foreign Minister Hossein Amir Abdullahian died in a helicopter crash. Iran's Mehr news agency confirmed that, reporting that all passengers of the helicopter carrying the Iranian president and foreign minister were martyred. He said on behalf of the Chinese government and people, Chinese President Xi Jinping on Monday sent a message of condolence to Iran's first Vice President Mohammad Mokhber following the unfortunate death of Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi in a helicopter accident. She expressed deep condolences and extended sincere sympathies to Mokhber, the family of President Raisi, and the Iranian government and people. She pointed out that since taking office, President Raisi has made important contributions to maintaining Iran's security and stability, also promoting national development and prosperity. President Raisi has also made active efforts to consolidate and deepen the China-Iran comprehensive strategic partnership.
And joining us for an in-depth conversations on the matter is from the Center for Strategic International Studies, or CSIS, researcher Peter Pandy, sharing us with the impact and also the implications of President Raisi's death on domestic politics and geopolitical landscape. Peter, thank you very much for taking your time to talk to us on the program. On to my first question to you. What do you think is the most prominent impact of the appointment of Vice President Mohammad Mokhber as acting president on the political stability of the country?
Well, the appointment of the vice president is just part of the Constitution. I think the most telling impact will be in the coming few weeks or months in the future, depending on the political stability of the Iranian regime, as well as questions of who will succeed Ayatollah Ali Khamenei in the future. Because President Ibrahim Raisi was one of the two or several people who was poised to be one of his successors. The other would be the son of Ali Khamenei himself. And his death would definitely release questions and lead to jockeys of power on who would succeed Ayatollah Ali Khamenei in the future.
Well, Peter, by law, Iran will have to elect new presidents within 50 days. What do you think are the long-term implications of Raisi's death on the country's leaderships and ways for them to move forward, finding the figure for the top job in merely 50 days?
Right. Well, Raisi's death raises the prospect of, as I said before, renewed jockeying for the position of president and later as well as for the supreme leader position. This doesn't necessarily guarantee the rise of the person seen as Raisi's chief rival, which is Khamenei's son in this case. As to my understanding, there's a resistance of inheritance of power in Iran. Previously, before Ali Khamenei, the supreme leader was the founder of the Islamic Republic who served from 1979 until 1989, and then Ali Khamenei himself has served in the supreme leader role since 1989 to present. So there will be deep differences between factions domestically in Iran, and I think Raisi's death will lead to competition for that. In the near term, as I said, principal impacts will be domestic, but the coercive power for grand strategy and the political landscape domestically in Iran still lies in the supreme leader, not the president. Still, Raisi was a trusted partner and ideological partner to the establishment and to the Ayatollah himself. And in fact, many expected him to be running in as first supreme leader after Ayatollah Ali Khamenei leaves the scene.
Right. Peter, the late President Ibrahim Raisi has long been regarded as the the dark horse, if we might say, the most prominent successor to the supreme leader Ayatollah Khomeini in Iran, at least. Now you say that the son of Ayatollah himself might be in contention to take these positions of presidency of Iran. How do you think the figure of the next top leader of Iran will impact its relations with neighboring countries and also domestically?
It's hard to say, but I do believe that given the long tenure that Ayatollah Ali Khamenei has had as supreme leader of Iran, that he set a lot of precedents and pillars of Iranian foreign policy, which has included the axis of resistance, which has the effort to court China and Russia to sort of repel Western influence in the Middle East, and for also greater regional dialogue. I think those things will remain unchanged in a future administration. Although the latter, which is greater regional dialogue with partners, particularly with Arab states, is likely to suffer with the death of the foreign minister, who was a seasoned diplomat and an Arabic speaker who had spent years cultivating relationships amongst Iran's Arabic neighbors and earned a small degree of trust, especially with states in the Gulf region. Amid uncertainty of who will replace him and who will be the next president, it will take some time to rebuild these ties in the future, as was the case with the death of Qasem Soleimani a few years later after the targeted killing on the behalf of the U.S. While it was a big blow to the Iranian regime for its security grand strategy in the region, because the institutions and strategy was already in place, those plans continued.
Yeah. Will it also impact, in your opinion, its relations with United States in particular, especially with all of the sanctions that have been imposed upon Iran in the past?
Well, there have been questions regarding the role of the U.S. or perhaps even Israel in their deaths. It's been a point of discussion on public discourse, on social media, and I believe it's been incited on some news platforms as well.
Yeah.
But to my understanding, these claims are so far speculation, as there is no verified information regarding the U.S. or Israel's role. However, the timing of their deaths and the fact that there has been a precedent for targeted killings from the U.S. or Israel towards Iran, as was the case with Qasem Soleimani, could very well, in my opinion, add or intensify the already tense relations between Iran and the U.S. Some may use the timing and circumstances of their deaths to cast blame on the U.S., as has been seen on the discussions about sanctions, and perhaps to distract from what, in my opinion, is the very real social and economic ills that Iran faces domestically. I think the case is almost pretty clear-cut. There isn't much debate that it was an accident. The helicopter, I believe, was a very old one. It was purchased reportedly prior to the Islamic Revolution, prior to 1979, which means that it's very old, and the weather conditions that the president flew in also weren't at best. So these speculations so far are unfounded, in my opinion.
Right. It is also unfortunate, Peter, that this accident took place in the midst of the escalating tensions in Middle East, and that is to say, the recent escalations between Israel and Iran, bringing Israel into the picture of this accident. Although the government of Israel has stated that they have nothing to do, they are not involved in any way of the accidents. What's your analysis on the incident, on how the involvement of Iran, if it's in any way involving Iran, or Israel, I should say?
It's unlikely, but not impossible, obviously. As I said, information that has come out both from international sources and I think also Iran state media is that it was, in fact, an accident. Raisi certainly had a lot of enemies, both foreign and domestic. Iran has a lot of enemies, both regional and international, but the extremely poor weather that hampered also rescue efforts, immediate rescue efforts to locate the helicopter at the crash site, is a reasonable explanation for the accident and a hard element for potential plotters to predict. As I said before, I think it bears looking at the equipment that the president was flying in. It was a U.S.-built helicopter that was purchased decades ago, prior to the 1979 Iranian Revolution, and the poor weather conditions in the region added to that. So, yeah.
Right. Peter, do you think that the change of top leadership in Iran will in any way affect the bilateral relations between Iran and Indonesia?
As I said before, the grand strategy of Iran's foreign policy is set by the supreme leader, which is a life tenure.
Yeah.
Supreme leader of Iran serves as head of state, the president serves as head of government, and the head of government, the president, must ultimately still answer to the supreme leader. There have only been two supreme leaders in Iran since its founding in 1979. Ali Khamenei has served as second in Iran's history since 1989. As such, while the loss of the president and foreign minister is significant, obviously, and very tragic for Iran's domestic political stability, but it is unlikely to change the overall trajectory of Iran's relations with Indonesia, particularly in the short term, as this is still determined under the direction of the supreme leader. In my view, collaboration between Indonesia and Iran in various sectors such as energy, technology, or defense is likely to continue, barring any significant change in grand strategy or strategic priorities in Indonesia or in Iran. This is because the institutions and treaties to facilitate cooperation have already been set. And I think many countries in the region and also globally view Indonesia as an important strategic partner if it wishes to increase its sort of diplomatic footprint in the Southeast Asia. I don't think these deaths change how these countries view Indonesia, and their engagement with us would continue.
Just one final question to you, Peter. How do we step up our bilateral cooperations between Indonesia and Iran during the transitional periods of leadership in Iran?
I think Indonesia should continue to cultivate its diplomatic, economic, social, and defense ties with the Middle East region, not just with Iran, but also with the broader region. As I said before, Indonesia is rightly viewed by many as a strategically important nation in Southeast Asia and the broader Indo-Pacific. And as such, we need to cultivate and establish strategic ties and cooperation where we can, whether that be with the Middle East or beyond. Has been the case with developing countries, we will seek to cash in on investment as well as cooperation on ties in sectors such as energy, technology, or defense for the development and for the pursuit of our national interests. Conversely, the Middle East, while also geographically quite far from Indonesia, is important too for Indonesia to invent in its diplomatic and strategic ties, especially true given the region's social and economic importance, not to just Indonesia, but also to many of the world.
Right, researcher for Center for Strategic and International Studies, or CSIS. We're going to have to leave it there, our conversations. Peter Penty, thank you very much for your insights on the program.
Thank you.
And on to our final report of the breaking news. Large crowds of Iranian mourners received the coffins of Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi and companions during a funeral procession in Tabriz on Tuesday.
Large crowds of Iranian mourners received the coffins of Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi and companions during a funeral procession in Tabriz on Tuesday. Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi, a hardliner seen as a potential successor to Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, was killed when his helicopter crashed in poor weather in mountains near the Azerbaijan border. Thousands of mourners gathered in Tabriz for the funeral procession of Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi and his companions on Tuesday. Funeral ceremonies for Raisi is held from Tuesday to Thursday in the cities of Tabriz, Qom, Tehran, and Birjan until his final burial at the Imam Reza Shrine in Mashhad. Mourners filled the streets, with some carrying posters of the late Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi in Tabriz ahead of the procession of Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi and others killed in a helicopter crash. The chair that the late Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi would have occupied at the opening ceremony of the 6th session of the Assembly of Experts was covered with a black cloth, and his picture was displayed as the session convened on Tuesday.
And the report concludes today's edition of Breaking News. I'm Rahmat Idris from Jakarta, Indonesia. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.